One of the biggest misconceptions out there is believing that only bad people are capable of committing cruel acts. The truth is, most of us have never been truly tested in situations where right and wrong become blurry. Imagine being placed in an environment where everyone around you is justifying an immoral act. Would you stick to your ethical stance, or would you be swayed by social and environmental pressure? These scenarios reveal that morality often isn't a black and white issue but rather a spectrum of choices shaped by contexts and external pressures. We like to think of human morality as a solid structure, a clear line dividing right from wrong. But this line can be much more fragile than it appears. In everyday life, many people believe their actions are guided by firm ethical principles. But what happens when we're put in extreme situations or under intense pressure? Studies show that human behavior can shift dramatically, and even the most moral individuals can make decisions that go against their own values. Psychological experiments and studies have shown how our perception of morality can be swayed by external factors. When faced with situations demanding conformity or obedience to authority, many people are surprised at how easily they abandon their convictions. This is when we realize the fragility of human morality. It can be bent and shaped not just by circumstances, but also by the expectations of others and the desire to belong to a group. Understanding this fragility is crucial to recognizing our potential for both good and evil. By acknowledging that no one is completely immune to external influences, we can begin to build a stronger awareness of our values and the pressures around us. It's a call to self-reflection. How would you react under extreme conditions? Could you stick to your principles, or, like many before you, would you find yourself justifying actions that go against your own morality? Reflecting on this is the first step toward understanding the true extent of human moral fragility. Philip Zimbardo, a renowned American psychologist, is the author of the book The Lucifer Effect: Understanding How Good People Turn Evil. In this book, Zimbardo examines how social situations can influence people's behavior, turning ordinary, morally upright individuals into agents of evil. Through a deep analysis of various psychological studies, he reveals how the power of environment and circumstances can be just as influential as personality traits when it comes to human behavior. The central concept of the Lucifer effect is that evil is not inherent to certain people, but rather that everyone has the potential to commit acts of evil, depending on the circumstances. Zimbardo argues that under the influence of factors like social pressure, conformity, dehumanization, and authority, even the most decent people can be driven to commit atrocities. He explores how the group effect and the absence of personal accountability can make it easier to adopt cruel behaviors. The book details a series of psychological experiments and historical events that illustrate the Lucifer effect. One classic example Zimbardo discusses is his own study, the infamous Stanford prison experiment, where ordinary college students quickly assumed roles of either cruel guards or submissive prisoners. This shocking experiment demonstrated how context can drastically alter a person's behavior, showing the power of situations in shaping human actions. Beyond analyzing negative behavior, Zimbardo also stresses the importance of recognizing the potential for good within each of us. He argues that by understanding how and why good people can commit evil acts, we can also learn how to resist these negative influences. Recognizing this potential allows us to take steps to cultivate empathy, personal responsibility, and resilience against destructive influences, promoting a more just and compassionate society. If you're interested in gaining a deeper understanding of how the environment can influence our actions and what we can do to resist these influences, Philip Zimbardo's The Lucifer Effect is a must-read. To learn more and get your copy, check out the link in the comments below. This book might just change the way you understand human behavior and provide tools to navigate challenging social situations. Many people believe that human behavior is a direct reflection of one's personality or morality. However, context and circumstances play a crucial role in how we act. Numerous psychological studies have shown that, when placed in certain situations, even people with strong moral convictions can behave in ways they never imagined. This happens because the environment around us has a subtle, yet profound, power to influence our decisions and actions. A clear example of this influence can be seen in the Milgram experiment, where ordinary individuals, under the guidance of an authority figure, administered painful electric shocks to other participants, despite their initial hesitations. This experiment revealed that obedience to authority can lead people to act against their own conscience, especially when the context suggests that responsibility for the actions is diluted or shared. Additionally, the famous Stanford prison experiment, conducted by Philip Zimbardo, demonstrated how simply being assigned a specific social role can transform someone's behavior. College students who took on the role of guards in a mock prison began to display sadistic and abusive behaviors within days. This illustrates how the environment and social situation can profoundly shape our actions, leading us to adopt behaviors that conflict with our moral identity. These experiments show us that no one is immune to the influence of context and circumstances. The perception of anonymity, peer pressure, and the desire to conform can lead us to justify actions that we would otherwise consider unacceptable. Recognizing the power of context over human behavior is the first step toward resisting these influences and making more conscious choices, even when faced with external pressures. Psychological studies have repeatedly shown us the surprising power of circumstances over human behavior. The Milgram experiment is a classic example that reveals just how far people are willing to go to obey authority. In this study, ordinary participants, recruited under the guise of a memory study, were instructed to administer electric shocks to another person each time they answered incorrectly. What the participants didn't know was that the shock recipient was an actor and wasn't actually being harmed. Even so, many continued to deliver what they believed to be real pain, simply because an authority figure told them to. The results of the Milgram experiment were shocking. Most participants were willing to administer dangerous levels of shock, despite hearing screams of pain and protests from the victim. This study demonstrated that obedience to authority can override personal morality and empathy, leading ordinary people to commit acts they would normally find unthinkable. The experiment forces us to question just how far blind obedience can turn ordinary people into perpetrators of cruelty. Another notable experiment that reveals the adaptability of human behavior to circumstances is the Stanford prison experiment. Conducted by Philip Zimbardo, this study turned an ordinary university into a simulated prison environment, where students were randomly assigned as guards or prisoners. Within days, the guards began to exhibit sadistic and abusive behaviors, while the prisoners became submissive and, in some cases, emotionally traumatized. The speed with which participants assumed their roles showed how power and social context can drastically influence behavior. These experiments serve as powerful reminders of how controlled environments can reveal disturbing truths about human psychology. When placed in environments where cruelty is normalized or encouraged, people can quickly stray from their moral compasses. This not only alerts us to the danger of authoritarian power structures but also highlights the need for continuous vigilance over our own actions and decisions. Ultimately, these studies underline the importance of questioning authority and maintaining personal accountability, even when pressured to follow orders. Obedience to authority is a powerful force that can lead people to carry out actions that go against their own values and moral principles. It's something many of us tend to underestimate. Psychological experiments, like those conducted by Milgram, have shown that when a figure of authority legitimizes a certain behavior, people are often willing to suspend their moral judgment and follow orders, even if those orders cause harm to others. The willingness to obey can be so deeply ingrained that personal morality is set aside in favor of fulfilling what is perceived as a social or institutional expectation. Blind obedience to authority figures is also linked to the phenomenon of deindividuation, where individuals lose their sense of personal responsibility for their actions. When people are part of a group or under the command of an authority, they often feel that moral responsibility is shared or diluted. This perception reduces personal guilt and makes it easier to engage in behaviors that would otherwise be seen as unacceptable. Deindividuation can occur in various situations, from wartime scenarios to corporate environments, where top-down orders discourage individual accountability. Moreover, the loss of personal responsibility is intensified in environments that encourage conformity and a desire to fit in with group norms. When everyone around seems to accept or even participate in questionable behavior, it becomes more challenging for an individual to stand up against it. This effect is amplified by the belief that everyone's doing it, which normalizes the behavior and reduces internal conflict. However, such conformity can have devastating consequences, as seen in many historical events where atrocities were committed in the name of following orders. Therefore, understanding the mechanisms of obedience to authority and the loss of personal responsibility is crucial to prevent these phenomena from leading to harmful actions. By being aware of how these processes work, we can develop strategies to resist negative influences and make ethical decisions, even in tough situations. Critical reflection and questioning authority, along with maintaining a strong moral compass, are essential to preventing blind obedience from resulting in harm. Dehumanization is a powerful psychological process that enables people to see others as less than human, thereby justifying cruel and inhumane acts. When a group is dehumanized, it is often compared to animals, pests, or objects, stripping away its dignity and intrinsic value. This process turns the other into something that can be attacked, subjugated, or eliminated without the burden of guilt or remorse, becoming a catalyst for large-scale atrocities. Historically, dehumanization has been a key tool in genocides and other forms of mass violence. From the Holocaust, where Jews were frequently compared to vermin and parasites, to the Rwandan genocide, where the Tutsi people were referred to as cockroaches, dehumanization has been used to strip groups of their humanity. These examples show how language and propaganda can be manipulated to make it easier for individuals and entire societies to commit atrocities, seeing their victims as unworthy of empathy or compassion. Beyond its role in conflicts and genocides, dehumanization can occur in more subtle, everyday contexts. For instance, in workplaces, marginalized groups may be treated in a dehumanizing manner through unfair policies or systemic discrimination, leading to a toxic environment that perpetuates abusive behavior. This phenomenon also extends to online interactions, where anonymity and emotional distance allow people to say and do things they would normally not do face-to-face. Understanding the mechanism of dehumanization is crucial to combat its influence. To resist dehumanization, it's essential to foster empathy and the recognition of shared humanity. Educational programs, storytelling that humanizes the other, and open communication are vital steps in breaking the cycle of dehumanization. Only by acknowledging and reaffirming the humanity in everyone, regardless of race, religion, or any other characteristic, can we prevent dehumanization from leading us to justify the unjustifiable. Language has the power to shape our perceptions and beliefs, influencing how we understand and justify the world around us. In many contexts, language is manipulated to soften or rationalize cruel acts, making violent actions appear acceptable or even necessary. Euphemistic terms like collateral damage to describe civilian deaths in wars are used to dehumanize victims and downplay the perception of suffering, making it easier for perpetrators and the general public to accept these atrocities. Beyond euphemisms, powerful ideologies play a crucial role in justifying cruel actions. Ideologies can provide a narrative of moral superiority or divine mission, allowing individuals and groups to see their actions as justified or even honorable. This mindset is often employed in war and conflict settings, where opponents are seen not as human beings but as threats or enemies to be eliminated. This process facilitates alienation and dehumanization, promoting a worldview of us versus them. The manipulation of language and ideologies also extends to controlling public narratives. Authoritarian regimes, for example, often use propaganda to create a distorted image of reality, convincing the populace that their acts of repression and violence are necessary to maintain order and security. By controlling information and manipulating language, these authorities maintain a tighter grip on society, suppressing dissent and justifying their brutal actions as measures of self-preservation. It's essential to be aware of how language and ideology can be manipulated to justify acts of violence and oppression. Questioning the dominant narrative, critically examining the words used, and considering the real human consequences of ideologies are fundamental to resisting these influences. By adopting a critical and informed stance, we can avoid being manipulated by language and ideologies that seek to distort reality and justify the unjustifiable. Every human being has the potential to do both good and evil. This duality is part of the human condition and is reflected in the choices we make every day. Philip Zimbardo, in his research and the concept of the Lucifer effect, emphasizes that while circumstances can influence our actions, each person has the capacity to resist negative inclinations and choose to do good. Recognizing this dual potential is the first step toward understanding the complexity of human nature. It's important to understand that our actions are not just automatic responses to external influences. We have the power of choice and, with it, the personal responsibility to decide how to react in difficult situations. Even in challenging contexts, where the pressure to conform or obey is intense, exercising self-determination and critical reflection can help us maintain our moral integrity. Zimbardo highlights that awareness of this choice is what allows us to push back against the tide of evil. Resisting negative influences also involves developing a strong moral compass and building a character that values empathy, compassion, and justice. These qualities are not just innate, they can be cultivated through education, self-care, and the conscious practice of acts of kindness. By actively engaging in positive behaviors and fostering a community that promotes collective well-being, we can strengthen our ability to resist harmful influences and cultivate a culture of kindness. Zimbardo's message is clear: evil is not inevitable, and good is within everyone's reach. Every small choice we make, whether it's helping someone in need, speaking out against injustice, or simply showing kindness in our everyday interactions, contributes to the cultivation of good in the world. Recognizing this capacity and responsibility is crucial to creating a world where good prevails over evil, and where we can all live with more empathy and understanding. History is filled with examples of ordinary people who, in moments of crisis, acted with remarkable courage and integrity, standing up against powerful forces and resisting evil. These stories of heroism show us that everyone has the potential to rise against injustice and do what is right, even when facing significant risks. The subway hero of New York, Wesley Autry, who risked his life to save a stranger who had fallen onto the subway tracks, is a contemporary example of how courage can manifest in everyday life. Another inspiring example is Irena Sendler, a Polish nurse who, during World War II, saved thousands of Jewish children from the Holocaust by smuggling them out of the Warsaw Ghetto and securing new identities for them. Despite the dangers and the constant threat of being discovered by the Nazis, Sendler not only risked her life but also demonstrated extraordinary compassion and determination. Her story is a testament to how courage and empathy can prevail even in the face of extreme evil. These acts of heroism are not exclusive to extraordinary individuals, they are within reach for all of us. What sets these people apart is not the absence of fear or doubt but the decision to act despite them. By recognizing the humanity in others and committing to the common good, anyone can become a hero in their own way. These examples remind us that the choices we make, big or small, have the power to inspire change and profoundly impact the lives of others. These stories of heroism serve as a powerful call for all of us to make a conscious choice to resist evil and embrace good. They show us that, regardless of the circumstances, we always have the capacity to choose compassion and courage over fear and indifference. By drawing inspiration from these examples, we can find the strength to act in the name of what is right and just, helping to create a world where good triumphs over evil. Throughout this video, we have explored the complexity of human nature and the profound impact that context, authority, dehumanization, and language can have on our actions. We have seen how ordinary people can be led to commit extraordinary acts of evil or heroism, depending on the circumstances and choices they face. This duality within each of us is a powerful reminder that good and evil are not fixed traits but rather potentials that coexist and can be activated by the situations and decisions we make. It is essential for each of us to recognize our capacity for both good and evil and, more importantly, to become aware of our daily moral choices. True strength of character lies not just in avoiding wrongdoing but in actively choosing to do good, even when it is difficult or unpopular. Critical reflection, empathy, and personal responsibility are crucial in resisting the forces that can lead us away from the path of integrity. Therefore, I make a call to your conscience and your commitment to moral choice. Reflect on your actions, examine the influences around you, and always be aware of the power you have to make a difference. Be an agent of good, promoting justice, compassion, and humanity in all your interactions. Remember that good and evil are made up of small daily choices, and each decision counts in building the kind of world we want to live in. Subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with someone who might benefit from these insights. And don't forget to check out the recommended video, 7 Signs You're Being a Fool. It dives even deeper into how to resist negative influences and make ethical choices in challenging situations.